So this morning, we're over here at the Oswalt Ranch. We're gonna precondition our calves, get ready for weaning here in a couple weeks. We had the cows on the north end of the ranch, so we drove them down here a little bit closer to the pens. We chose to drive them quite a ways to save some grass around the pens for weaning. So we jumped a bunch of pastures to come down and be able to work the calves, and we'll leave them close to the pens for a couple weeks before we wean.
Our regenerative journey started with 7 research ranches on a total of 14,000 acres. Located across southern Oklahoma, each ranch property is unique in topography, use, and history. We want to take you along on our journey, showing you the challenges, the lessons we've learned, and the victories along the way to regenerating the ranch.
My name is Joe Poquet. I'm the General Ranch Manager for Noble Research Institute. So we're trying to manage our cow herd adaptively, and a lot of that is getting our cows to graze the way we want them to graze, to perform under our grazing management. And so managing this way is good for lots of things. It's good for the soil health. It's really good for the cow health because they're in a more natural environment. They're not cropped up by artificial inputs. And at the end of the day, it's good for the ranch because cows that thrive in their environment, on soil that's thriving in its environment, those are the cows that make us money on the ranch. And so it's good for the ranch profitability environment as well.
After a year of adaptive management, things are looking good.
So typically, there would usually be 3 or 4 herds down here. Last year, we combined everything, and then this year was the first year to put the heifers back with the cows. And this was the first year to calve the first calf heifers with the cows too. So, been different. I tell people we drive through here and it looks like somebody came through here and left all the gates open and everything got mixed up. But it's not a bad thing because it's way easier to manage this one herd than it is 3 or 4. And the impact you can have with one herd this size it's good.
So as a whole, the cow herd, we're trying to get animals that fit our environment. So cows that don't get bred are cold. Cows that don't bring a calf home are cold. And pretty hard line about that, because if they can't, that's the one thing they really need to do is bring a calf home at weaning and get bred back.
With adaptive management, the process for calves starts at the beginning, weaning day. Calves are sorted. Now comes the next step.
So today we're pregnancy checking all of our cows. So today I've set the template to, we have a breeding section and a cull section in one of our records. And if that animal's not bred, it becomes a cull and it will be taken out of the herd. We also capture a weight every time we work our animals. They'll come through and they get designated whether open, a cull, or bred and stay in our herd. And then There will be a condition score after it's run through the chute. And then we always keep track of the batch number of what we have vaccinated and how much is given to that animal.
I can do it faster if they're heavy bred by hand, but the ultrasound's quicker if they're short bred.
So you did it by hand because why?
Because my ultrasound needed an update yesterday and they quit on us. We're getting into like this cow right here. She's got an elongated horn, but I'm not. Yeah, she's short bred. The shorter bred cows ultrasound will show you a picture of the fetus and that. After 90 days, they drop over the brim. 90 to 120 days, so they're way down in there. I gotta go further in. But the fetus is also bigger, so I can feel it easier. The heavy bred, when they're like 120 to 150 days, they're the size of a small cat, or they're already pretty good size. You can reach in there and feel it. A lot of times I'll feel the head. When the short breds, they're just over the brim, they're in a sack. The hardest ones to tell are maybe if they've sloughed a calf in the last 60, 90 days. They'll have an elongated horn, but there won't be anything in there.
Now we're having fun. The next day, the pregnancy check and weaning process starts all over again at the Oswalt Ranch.
We really focus on having the cows work for us. We want them to be able to maintain body condition and get bred back and bring a calf home every fall. And any cows that fail to do that are cold, almost without question, just because we don't want to keep cows that aren't working for us. If they can't maintain condition in our grazing system and they can't get bred back and they can't bring a calf home, then that cow is really just a drain on all the other cows, and they're not making any money for the ranch, and they really need to go after that.
It's time to release the calves into their weaning pens.
So we just weaned these calves this morning. This is the first time they've been away from their mamas, and you can see they're pretty content grazing. I was worried about them, the calves, turning the calves out here by themselves without any cows around, so we put the cows on the other side of the fence where we planned to fence line wean anyway. And the cows are out grazing and the calves are grazing, and neither one of them know the other's on the other side of the fence right now. Couldn't ask for it to go any better. This is why we like to plan our grazing and have lots of grass around the pens for these kind of events, because I don't hear one of them bellering. They're all just out carrying on, grazing, being happy calves.
Now we head to PDF, another noble ranch, to check on the cold livestock before they're sent off to auction.
So we're in the PDF office checking the map out. So we're gonna go up here to pasture 4 in the wildlife buffer. That's where the cows are right now. We'll go check them out, see how they're doing. We're gonna preg check them next week. So in the process of adapting our herd, we culled pretty heavy on anything that wasn't bred and anything that came to weaning dry. So those are our 2 main culling criteria right now. And on top of that, some of these cows were thin when we culled them after our first year of adaptive high intensity grazing. So we're trying to weed out the ones that don't fit good in that system and try to adapt our herd into ones that fit our management style and can maintain condition and still be fertile and get bred. We wanted to advance them a little bit so we could market them, as being bred, but at the same time, we don't want to just run them into the dirt either. We want to maintain our good animal husbandry and make sure that we're doing all the things right by the animal, because they'll make good cows for somebody. They just don't fit into our grazing system.
With winter now over and the calves getting a taste of spring, Kevin and Joe reflect on the weaning seasons in the past.
Yeah, so what was your typical weaning in winter like down here?
In years past, we would wean them and send them to the Old Swat facility up there, and they would keep them up there and basically feed them till we bred them, or feed them till we had wheat to turn them out on. So some years they would come back in December and we would grow them on wheat and then they would get bred, or some years they may not come back till February, and they'd go back out on wheat and get bred. So depending on the weather and how much grass we grew through the winter usually, but you could always bet that they would probably typically be on feed 60 to 90 days, however it worked out. And this year these heifers really hadn't been on feed this year. I mean, they got supplemented some, but a small amount.
Being able to adaptively graze and being able to have our grazing plan and have stockpiled forage available during the winter months, we have drastically cut our hay consumption. Just off the top of my head, I think we used to feed 200 or 300 bales a year on the one ranch, and now I think we fed 20 this year. So just being able to stockpile forage, and even in a dry year like we've had so far, the cows did really good considering it's their first year of grazing stockpile forage. They maintained condition well, and we were able to lengthen our grazing season just by the way we managed our grasses in the beginning of the year for the end of the year. I'm really excited about the direction we're going. There are some positive benefits that are happening. It's hard to put a number on it because it's more of a feel we get from being down there, and I don't take very lightly the people's experience that have worked on a lot of these ranches for decades. And when somebody that's worked for a place for 30 years tells you that there's grass growing in different places and grass that we haven't seen, and we had a really dry winter and we still have a lot of green coming up, that's really encouraging that we're headed the right direction. We're starting to build more buy-in and more buy-in every day as we get a year in and see the benefits that we've made on the land and on the cows. And after that first year, when you really start to see the ranch changing, that's when the passion develops for this kind of management, and really all the things just start clicking up and all the lights come on. So I was really concerned if we had a dry fall and a dry winter that would be delayed, but we're seeing enough improvement that a lot of the folks on the ranches are getting real fired up about this next growing season.